All right, Travi, what are you doing over here?
I'm attempting to wire this
He's
thing.
like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
I can't get this dang wiring harness to hit the starter. It's
So
interesting.
your starter and your fuel pump isn't doing anything?
Yeah, but it turns out they're roughly the same stuff. So I just gotta, I don't know jack about wiring, so I gotta figure this thing out.
Well, you gonna find out today.
I hope. I really hope I do.
All right, guys. Well, today we're gonna go over some motor things. So I've got over here the engine that is gonna go into this cutlass that I told you guys about. That's Dusty. He's gonna help us out. This is kind of a weird thing. So basically, what this is it's an LQ for 6-liter block that we ram horned in a 376 LSX bottom end. That would basically be just, you know, like a forged crank, dish forged pistons, and some powdered forged rods. It's from a 376 B15 block. If you guys look those up, they're like a boost motor, but the pistons are 65 thousandths over what this motor could handle. So we had to get that board out. We got it honed, hot tanked, ready to go. And then we installed the bottom end. So all that stuff is snugged up and ready. And what we got to do is start putting together the rest of the short block. So we're going to do, you know, all of our cam timing stuff, oil pump, basically everything that has to do with this thing other than the heads and beyond. And we've got all our stuff right here. Dusty's guarding it, watching out. So we got some feel-good parts. We got pretty much everything we need, and we'll go over this stuff as we kind of get into this. But yeah, let's get going. So I think the first thing I'm going to do, this thing's been, I'll hand that off to you. This thing's been sitting around, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the old air and I'm going to blow it out, because we got dogs and they tend to leave a little bit of them wherever they go. And it's been just sitting on the floor for a minute. So you can see them flying out everywhere. She's nasty, but that'll work though. I think we're in good shape. I'm also gonna go through and I think just quick run some lube through the cylinders, because it's been, like I say, sitting for just a little bit. So we're gonna wipe them down, get any gunk or chunks of metal or whatever that might, you know, dirt that's in there. Make sure everything's nice and spiffy clean. Get that cam bearing. This is about as clean as it gets. This is a dirty shop. But, you know, we're not an engine builder, so. All I know is it's worked in the past. We build them, we slap them together, and they do the job. So, all right. I don't need this guy anymore. Trash. We got a nice new fancy ARP bolt for that, so we don't need that garbage. We also have a new seal for the back housing, but this one looks pretty new, pretty nice, so I think we're just going to use it, see where it goes. I'm going to run this on the engine stand before we actually put it in the car, so we'll be able to see if anything leaks, and we're gonna run it. You know, if it fits, it ships. You know how it is. The Copo 25 plus PSI from overstock. So that's the guy we need right there, Copo. So we got to pull this nut off the front. I'm gonna need an Allen key for that. So let's go around and get that sucker. Good old Harbor Freight, you know, gets us where we need to go. Holy smokes. That's nice and tight.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Oh man, they really...
You got a spring in there too.
Well, yeah, but Jesus. Let me just throw this in the vise.
Make it good and tight.
It's fucking good. No problems there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you.
Did you bring your spring or did you leave that over there?
I left it over there, of course. So we pop this little nut off. We got our red spring in there. We definitely don't want that. We're gonna put this Copo spring in. It's plus 25 PSIs, and that's what we want. All the oil pressures. For when we're hitting high RPMs, it's nice to know you got a little oil pressure there. I'm just gonna slip him in there. Snug this sucker back down.
Torque to spec.
Torque to spec, a little bit of elbow torque. Oh God, did we scratch it? No, we're golden. See, we know what we're doing. There's two ways you can do this. It's okay to use regular, 5W30, 10W30, whatever motor oil you got laying around. You can lube it up with that and stab it in there. That's not even a big deal. I've done that multiple times. However, the thing that changes my mind as to whether to use assembly lube or just regular oil is how long it's gonna sit. I actually plan to fire this thing up somewhat quickly. This isn't gonna help me, I already punched a hole. It's somewhat quickly, so I can just throw oil on it, but if it's gonna sit for a while, if you're building a motor and you think that it's gonna sit, like, hey, I'm probably not gonna fire this thing up for the next year and a half, you should use assembly lube. It's just not as thin, it's gonna stay where you put it. Jesus, this thing is relentless. Oil pump, timing cover bolts, water pump bolts. Water pump bolts are better, honestly, because they're longer, but it'll do. So we got a little more of a handle on it when it gets deep. It gets deep, oh man. So, take that sucker, put them right on the journals, mainly, but I'll put some on the lobes too, just for the fun of it. Just so it'll get, just get in there. Don't be shy. Just go all kinds of burning on it. Nice and liberal. And take your old, I was gonna say neck beaters, but I can't say that on YouTube. Take them things and just run her around. Really lube it up good. And gently slide it in. You'll have to turn it around a bit to get the lobes through. But you really don't want to mar up your cam bearings. That's kind of the main thing. Just take it easy, take your time. I'm gonna stop right there and make sure I got lube on my last few lobes here. I'll even go as far as to, once again, liberalize this, because I ain't no punk. And as you get further in here, it's gonna be harder to, pivot this thing up. That's why it's kind of nice to use those water pump bolts, because they're long and you'll have some leverage there. But just like that, we're in. So cam's in. So at this point, we can put the retainer plate on. Now this cam can still move back, so you don't want to get too crazy and jostling it back and forth. But once the cam retaining plate's on, it at least can't come out the front. So we'll get these bolts out of here. Plates. So we got a new cam retainer plate also. And I've reused these things too. Where the crap is all this stuff? There we go.
We organized it and then it unorganized itself.
I don't know about organized, kind of just threw it on the table.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
And I've reused these cam retainer plates on pretty much every motor I've ever built, but being as we're putting a little more money into this one, I'm gonna get a new one because it has a nice new seal in here. And I think you can get these seals too, but they're about the same price as a retainer plate, so we just got the whole plate. Oh, she goes on there just like, no, maybe not that. Yeah, just like that. It's a one-way fit, so we can't really jack it up. Should have brought the impact over here too. That would have been handy. Impact with a 10mm socket will get you a long ways on these engines. These are torqued to 22 foot-pounds, so we're gonna go ahead and torque those down. Real, professionally. 22 foot-pounds. And actually, conveniently enough, this thing is 22 foot-pounds of torque, so we're probably right on the ball there. Pretty close. Close enough for me. So those 376 LSX B15 blocks come with what is basically an LSA crank. It's out of like a CTSV or Gen 5 Camaro, the one with the LSA blower on it. So they use a little bit different ring gear, and it's kind of weird. They got, like the 5360s, this key is usually back here. but this one's like way up here and it's literally long. It's kind of odd. So it really weirded me out at first, but these things do slip on here, and this is for a Cadillac CTSV. But I mean, that's about where it goes. It probably has to go back a little bit, and it'll barely catch that key, which is a little sketch. And hope to God that that's gonna work. But everything that I've found says that that's normal. That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, after all, I guess it is just running oil pump and like the cam, but I don't know.
That cam goes out. We all know what that happened.
Well, it's like, yeah, man, it's a grenade, man. I'll go ahead and I'll put those on, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna Loctite those too, being as that thing's spinning.
Mm-hmm.
It would suck to have a bolt come out of the cam when the engine's running.
I don't care if you have an iron block or aluminum block. That cam goes, it makes a whole lot of racket. Guys driving the struggle bus here.
Dude, that's my life. I'm the limp noodle, I'm telling you. There's a reason I call it the limp noodle lifestyle, because this is real shit. For a Loctite, and the first thing oh Jesus. First thing I grabbed was like a giant bottle of red Loctite. I was like, yeah, I don't think so. The red is the high strength stuff. And I don't need that in this. I want to be able to get these out one day if I have to. Nah, that would suck. Just some. Pretty sure those are torqued 22 foot-pounds as well. Okay. I'm thinking I'm gonna put something soft against there and give it a whack. What do you think? You think that's
yeah.
That makes sense? We'll see if we can slide that sucker on there. It shouldn't get stuck on there like that one is until it's way back, so might need a better hammer. Oh, keep moving. Make sure this doesn't get stuck. She's tapered so it gets wider as it goes down. And I don't need that in my life. There's nothing to grab onto that with. Still good. But now I'm kind of at that point. I got another one. Don't even worry about it. I got two. When it's useful to have used parts just laying around. This is kind of weird too, because I got to line up that key if I'm going to do this.
I would just take that old one off.
Well, this is longer, isn't it? Oh, come on. There you go, fella. Ain't no big thing. Jeez. Part. Because one leak will set you off just a little bit one way or the next. I think that's going to be our huckleberry right there. But I don't know, those holes don't look like they're really wanting to line up with the skier. I hope to God we don't run into a problem already. It was really difficult sourcing all these parts for this thing, because it's, I mean, basically when they build LSX motors, they just cobble stock parts off of their different GM, you know, motors. So it's one of the things, but it looks like we're in like Flint here. Our mark meets our mark. So our big slot there to our dot, straight up and down. Our number one piston's at top dead center. We should be good. 22 foot-pounds. Double tap. Can't remember what rule it is on Zombieland, but you always double tap. It's in the rule book. Okay, so that's still on. I think I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over. I'm gonna see if that dots line up after a full revolution here. Once that number one is back up where it needs to be. Oh, I gotta go one more yet. Perfect. Fantastico, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and take some of my oil here. And I never do this really, but just getting liberal, you know, all about that liberal life. I'm just gonna lube all this stuff up a little bit. No big deal. Takes 2 seconds, a little extra protection. There we go. pretty sure there's no oil pump gasket. It's been a while, but pretty positive there's no such thing. Those seem very long. That is some junk in that hole. Because that bolt stopped dead. Looks like we're clearancing our chain good, which is important.
Yep.
You never know, you know, it's just stuff to look out for. I've run into dumber stuff, putting engines together, not knowing what I'm doing, you know.
Like an average.
The average guy. Once again, 22 foot-pounds, double tap. Now I think we're ready for our timing cover and gasket,
Yep.
yes? I'm gonna wipe my hands off a little bit because she's painted up all fancy. I don't wanna ruin my half-assed 5-minute paint job that I worked really hard on. Professional painting and all, you know. So we're gonna grab that in our new gasket. I'm gonna take a look at this real quick too. Yeah, perfect. There's always gonna be a little bit of slop in there, but you don't want it super tight and you don't want it super loose. So that's just perfect. That's probably the most perfect one I've ever seen, actually. Usually they're a lot looser than that, which is always bodes well for me. Got me some bolts. Woo! We should have painted them black. Painted the top of the bolts black so we're really nice looking. Although you could go online and for like 10 bucks or something, you could find stainless, brand new stainless cover bolts. This thing's tweaked a little bit, but it should be all right. Is our lighting in here all right?
I can see just fine.
Fantastic. You can, he's like, I can see.
I can see.
Fucking blind, bro?
Yeah.
I can see just fine.
Maybe after watching it through watching it back, maybe needing a little bit more light.
We
But
don't double check our videos.
no, why would we?
Why would you do that? This is real. This is raw. This isn't like Horsepower Nation or something on
Yeah.
TV. We're just gonna pop it all apart real fast. It goes right back together. No big deal. Everything's cool. After a short 10-minute break, we have the whole motor built. Everything's perfectly torque to spec. Make sure our gasket doesn't be stupid. This thing, like I say, it's a little tweaked, so it's wanting to go one way or the other here. It's not wanting to line up with my stuff. Rest of them don't look too bad. That one's a little cracked out. It's a little twack. Just adjust. It ain't no big thing. In all reality, I mean, I literally spent no time on this whole paint situation right here. I pulled them out. I didn't even put these through the parts washer. These were some ones I had just laying on the shelf. I don't even think they were originally this engine, but we got, you know, LS parts laying around for days. So I picked the cleanest one on the shelf, and I just hit it with the wire brush on an angle grinder. Started going to town, got it real nice and clean, and I was thinking about just painting it like that, but I wanted the swirlies, so I put the old flap disc to her. I think I used
swirls.
I used 180 grit flap disc, but I would use something a little finer for aluminum. We usually use that stuff on steel, and it does great. It doesn't mar it at all. You just get the pattern. But with the aluminum, it definitely chewed away a little bit of that. I mean, you can feel it as you go across, but it's a motor. You know, this isn't high-end stuff. We're fine. Torque 22 foot-pounds. Bam! Timing oil pump, timing cover, done. I guess now what we could do, we could put it in the lifter trays, lifters, flip this sucker over and do the oil pan. I would like to put that back cover on before we do the oil pan. You got to get that so we can seal that up good. But other than that, I'd say we're in good shape. We got new LS7 lifters here. I think we're going to use those. Something a little more durable. I didn't want to spend $400. I was told by the guys at certain parts companies that if I'm running 1,000 horsepower, I should really buy this specific brand lifter, and I was like, you know what? They're pros. They know what they're talking about. I'll listen to them. So I go online and I look up the lifters they want me to find, and they're like, those ones were like $600. They had the, you know, the whole connector and everything. I was like, oh man, lifters, you know. Like, no, I think we'll just we'll opt out. I know these LS7 lifters are way nicer. They cradle the wheel a little better, a little stronger. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that run 1,000+ horsepower on these things, and they last. They don't break every 5 freaking minutes, so we'll be fine.
I put them over there because we need to use the parts washer.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Here, I thought you were just being confident.
No.
Wrong again, he says. Gotta get the griddle off there. We ain't making no eggs, dude. Alright. Spring loaded. I'm not gonna get crazy. I'm just gonna freaking rinse them off quick. Jesus. Oh, come out of the sauce. Go ahead and rinse them off, because they're pretty furry. They got rye fur, they got like freaking little bits of cotton in them, little puffs, some dirt. We don't need none of that. When we put together Travis's motor that first time, and it, I mean, it ran good, everything worked. When we pulled it apart, it had like big clumps of fur in the oil pickup tube in the screen. So that probably wasn't good, you know, but it ran great till it didn't.
Every motor that was built in here has some sort of rye fur.
Yeah, Riley, she just, you know, she's living her best puppy life, you know, and she leaves little bits of her everywhere she goes. Throw them up here, give it a quick wipe off. That solvent all up in my engine, pulling the oil off everything. I mean, this little bit wouldn't do nothing, but I don't play those games because I am cursed just by life, you know. I'm just gonna set them in here. I'm not ready for them yet. I gotta put the lifters on them, but it's a good place to store them for a second. And these go in one way, just like that. You'll see on these things that on the block, they have this little nub right here where this head bolt goes in, and these have a notch. Well, these ones have it on both sides. This one doesn't. These might be from different engines, but because I mean, we just kind of pulled these off the shelf too. So these are probably, some of them might be out of 5.3, some might be out of 6.0, some of them might be aftermarket. I mean, we've pulled apart a few engines,
yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and yeah, see, these two are notched on both sides. So, ooh, what the jack? You see that? No, sir. Get rid of that. A big chunk of snot in there. The other ones are good, right? Yeah, we're good. Yeah. I don't know where that was all about. Okay.
You know, somebody's going to have to say that this ain't going to work because these trays are 2 different styles.
Yeah, somebody's going to be like, it'll never run.
Just like we were told by a pretty high-end company that this crank won't fit in this block. And
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out, because, you know, everything's janked. I tried to figure out what timing set I had to use on this, because a regular 6.0, 5.3, whatever timing geared wouldn't fit, wouldn't work. And so I was calling around, and I called probably 8 different companies. But I called one specific company, not to name names. And this guy that was working for this company told me, I was like, yeah, I got a 376 LSX B15 bottom end, and I put it into an LQ4 6-liter block. And he's like, well, there's your problem right there. I kind of laughed because I thought he was kidding, you know, like he was joking with me or something. But he was not kidding. He was totally serious. He's like, yeah, that bottom end won't fit in that block. I'm like, well, we bored the cylinders. You know, the pistons are bigger. You know, we bored those. And he's like, no, the crank won't fit. I'm like, well, it's in there. He goes, no, it won't fit in the block. I was like, no, it's in there. Like it went right in. There's nothing, like I didn't do anything special. Popped right in. No big deal. I wish I had another table. But he was adamant. I mean, he was 100% certain in his head that they just don't fit in there. That doesn't happen. This is a bad idea. Needless to say, I don't think I'm going to be talking to those guys anymore. Because, I mean, I'm not a smart guy, okay? But I'm telling you, it's in there. It's not that I said I'm trying to put it in there. It's in. It is in, buddy. Oh yeah, nice and snug. That's what you want. These lifters fit in these trays one way. They have flat edges on either side, and those got to line up with the flat edges on this. And when they do, they should be nice and snug. Like I'm pulling on this right now and it's not coming out. That's what you want. These trays, if you pull apart something that's got high mileage and these trays are loose and the lifters just kind of pop out of there willy-nilly, probably don't use them, because the chances are these lifters will spin. And then you'll really have some problems, because if this wheel doesn't line up with that lobe and it spins and it goes sideways, it chews your cam all to hell. It'll put particles all over your motor will be roached, and all your hard work and time and effort and, you know, the money that you were gonna spend on your girlfriend goes to hell. So we're not gonna play that game, I don't think. And I mean, that's okay if they're a little loose. I've used a little loose, you know, quite a few times. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put more oil in them holes, because that seems kind of, I know I lubed these up before, but that seems pretty tight. So I'm just gonna make sure those are super lubed. Actually, where's my WD-40? That'll work just fine. We'll just really quit dicking around. Give it a spray. I'll just keep you right there, little buddy. That's the shop buddy right there. Come on, boys. There you go. Ain't no big deal. And like Flynn. And I'll find the bolts after I'm done putting these in, probably. Yeah, I mean, looking at different lifters, there's so many. I mean, they're the rocker style, so you don't have to use the trays. And they're just all expensive. I did find a cheap set that was only like 150 bucks. And these lifters are like 170, 180 bucks. They're not cheap either, but I mean, you're gonna be pushing a lot of power, a lot of RPM. So it doesn't hurt to go just one notch above stock. Even though there's so many people that run the stock ones like I do, and they rev that shit to the moon. I mean, look at Bryce, he has a 240 LS, or that's a 5.3 liter.
Yeah,
and that thing, he didn't even open the engine. I mean, he found some guys broke down on the side of the road. He's like, hey man, you want to sell your motor? Like, yeah. And took it right there on the highway. So he literally pulled it out, popped it in the car. Thing's got blow by, shitload of miles. Runs like a top. Stock lifters. He revs it to 7,000 every time. He said that's like, he's like, it will go way past that, but 7 grand. I personally don't rev my stuff to 7 grand. This one I will, because we have some more supporting modifications, but like my S10, I don't go past 65. I would go to 7,000 if I had a bigger cam, but the cam I have in there is fairly small. It's a stage 2 cam. It doesn't run at that kind of RPM, you know what I mean, anyway, so
why rev it?
Yeah, why rev it if I'm not making power? I'd rather shift and go back into my power band. That just makes sense to me. Some engine builder's gonna tell me that, hey man, you should rev the thing out. And I'm like, hey Jack, okay. I don't know what I'm talking about apparently. But I actually come up as a Facebook member today when I bought that cam. And I had sat in there with the box, you know, and I had the specs on it. It was like a 532, 535 lift cam. Like it's pretty
small.
Pretty mild, yeah, compared to what most people are running on their stuff. Like Travis is even as a 600 lift.
Yeah.
That's not even big, you know.
No.
And that's got flat top pistons. Mine are, you know, dished, so I guess they're not anymore, but they were. Mint. So we need bolts for that,
Yep.
I suppose.
Lifter tray, top bag.
Look at that. Labeled. I hate it when people don't label it. They like pull stuff apart and they just throw it in a bin. My dad used to do that.
Yeah.
He'd throw it in a coffee can, but he knew exactly where every bolt goes. And I guess for a while I was like that too with these LS motors. I kind of knew everything, but that is long since gone. These are not stock. These look weird. Well, they might be stock. They just look off. They almost look like some kind of aftermarket bolt, but we're gonna run them anyway. I don't know what torque they're supposed to be, but they're going 22 foot-pounds. Roughly. I just take them, I'll just be real gentle and put them in there. I love watching some guys that take their videos and they're just slapping. I mean, this is like high end compared to what some people do. It's kind of crazy. We're gonna get that out of there before we leave him in the motor. Yeah, so lifters are on. Our heads aren't ready. We got to put those together, so we're not there yet. We could do the timing cover, but why? I mean, I guess we could.
Back plate.
Back plate. Yep, back plate. And I didn't paint the black plate because who the hell sees it anyway?
Yeah.
It's just a waste of paint. Perfect. And I'm gonna reuse this stock cover for the gasket for this, which might not be the best idea, but I'm gonna go with it. Once again, I've done this a few times and it's never hurt me. Granted, this motor has more miles on it than the average one I've done. I think this was like a 270 range, so. But you know, I think I'm just gonna give her the goose. For sure I'm gonna wipe this off because she's a little oily. I want no false drips. I don't play that false leak life. Because I'm a bit of a panicker. If I see a drip,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, the head gasket's blown. I don't know what to do. I think we'll be all right. I'm gonna pop that sucker up there. She's got to flip over though. And it's not rocket science. I mean, you can see that this lines up there. I still got the old marks on the cover actually from, like you can see, there were the old gasket laid. So we're not getting crazy here. I mean, I wouldn't say this is a junkyard build. This engine's gonna have a lot of money, but I'm putting the money where it really counts. Being as we're putting this on the engine run stand, and at the end of the day, it is going in a race car, so it's very easy to get the engine out if something leaks. It should be like a less than an hour job to pull this thing out. I'm not too worried. If we spot a leak, it's not that big a deal. If I was putting this into something kind of like the S10, something that's a street vehicle that's gonna suck to get it back out, I'd probably be a little more, intricate, but oh, spinny spin, little tweaky twack. I'm missing a bolt. Dusty. We're missing. I bet you I have an extra one on this motor over here. Don't even worry about it. This is why we have like 18 engines.
That's why we have like, what, 5 LS engines just chilling?
Well, and that's kind of the beauty of, like, everybody building the same type of thing. I know it's kind of redundant, but yeah, rear cover, right? It's, it's kind of boring maybe, but I never get bored. And it's nice if you go to the track, you go to an event, Travis's shit breaks down, I can take the parts out of my engine. If I'm not running or if I'm already knocked out of the race or whatever the situation is, or I'm just not as important, he can take my coils, my plugs, my wires, everything. I mean, everything's basically the same between his engine and mine. There's very few things, sensors might be a little different between the LS1 and the 5.3, but there's not, much difference. We even run the same injectors at the moment. I mean, all that stuff. So, it's handy. So what you got going on there, Dusty?
Doing these Trunnion upgrades.
So you pressed out the old bearings already?
Yep, pressed out the old bearings, putting the new ones in.
So how did you press these out?
Grabbed an old 22 mil, just regular socket, and then a 13 mil, and you can see right here there is flats on this side and not on this side. Just put the 22 right on the flats and send her home. Weird.
Pushes it right out, just squeeze it in the vise?
Yep, squeeze it in the vise. We sent it home, and that's it. Now,
Falling.
the reverse process is taking all of this, putting it back together.
This is the first one you're doing?
No,
You got a couple right here,
I got
huh?
a couple.
With the new bearings pressed in, now they can articulate basically an entire circle, 360. But the stock ones, you're limited to where it'll only pivot so far. So if you have a high lift cam or something, this is probably a good idea. If you're gonna rev high, this is a good idea.
Yep.
That looks pretty easy.
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. These washers actually come in the kit, which is quite nice because they had their, and you should have a little bit of play side to side. I don't know if you can see that, but these obviously can turn all the way around.
Awesome. That'll be good for that 629 inches of lift.
Yeah.
that we got going on.
But
so
I'll do one. I always like to keep the plastic in when I'm doing the first one, just so those needle bearings don't go yard sailing out. And it's simply just...
Does this kit come, this is just the Trunnion Upgrade, do they come with extra bearings? I'm pretty sure they come with a couple extras because they assume you're gonna screw up.
I don't know, I haven't checked. I'm just gone one tube emptied one tube right here and just doing it that way. Just grabbing one, and then I just pop this little guy out. Get my fat fingers in here. There. Make sure all your bearings are in there. Pop this little guy out. And luckily it kind of centers it. Then
use the washer.
Yep. Use the washer.
And they make a little press tool for this that you could buy too, I guess.
But
hey, Vice kills it.
Yep.
And it's free.
Yep. And paplow.
Pa-pam.
Yep.
Done deal.
Just gonna knock all these out.
One by one.
Yep.
A little bit of, you got a good one. I mean, you got a good stack rolling.
Yeah.
You know, you're in good shape.
Neat. I think it took maybe 15 minutes to take off all the old ones. When you're not carrying, you just send them and just...
Yeah, you seem like you rolled through that really fast. You're like, you did the first one, you're like, oh wow, that's easy. And then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm done with those. Yeah. So the GoPro battery died on us, guys, but we did get a little more work done on the engine. Come over here, I'll give you a quick preview of what's going on. So this is where we're at. We basically got the whole short block assembled. We left off, I think we were doing timing. All that stuff just went right on like normal. We're in good shape there. You know, we just kind of lined up our dot to dot, top sprocket to bottom sprocket with #1 piston at dead center, top dead center, and your timing is good. From there, we went ahead and put the oil pump on, cover, all that stuff. The biggest thing I think I should probably show is that when you put these timing covers on and those back covers, just put the bolts in with your hands and then leave it loose so that you can put a straight edge on the bottom of the block surface where the oil pan mounts and to here, because this thing can move freely up and down, and if it's too far up or too far down, you're going to have a problem with sealing here. So we make sure they're you know, perfectly flush. You can use just a, you know, square or whatever you got laying around, just a straight edge, level, whatever, and you can put it on there. I also put a nice dab of, it's hard to see because it's all on there, but there is a little bit of silicone poking out of that sucker. I put a little dab on all these corners because there's a little crease where it might leak. So I do that front and back. We got our new ATI dampener on there. We still do, this is just temporary, it's a stock crank bolt, but we got an ARP bolt going in. Our electric water pump, this is literally the cheapest electric water pump I could find at the time, so she's gonna be sweet. We got our painted covers on there, they're looking sweet. I did pop some sensors and stuff on. We got our Weeden, however you want to say it, oil pan on there. I gotta tell you guys, this oil pan, as nice as the baffling and stuff is on the inside, I'm a little disappointed. They put these fittings in for the oil cooler or oil filter, whatever, oil filter relocation is what it is. But when they did that, they didn't shorten the bolt for it, and there's no way you can get either a stock bolt or the bolt they give you up in here. It just doesn't happen. So we took a stock bolt, because these normal bolts they give you are Allen head, we took a stock bolt, cut it to length so that it's a little shorter, and put it in there because there's a blank spot here. And so if we wouldn't have put this bolt in or cut it down and modified it, we would have had this whole stretch from here all the way to here with no fasteners. And I really don't think that is kosher. I don't think that's something we want to do. So this is where we're at. I mean, the long block's assembled. Right now we're doing head stuff. We're getting the heads ready. We did pop a crank sensor in there. I'm not sure if we're gonna have to get rid of that. Cam sensor, oil pressure sensor. I believe we're gonna be able to use the stock cam sensor. Oil pressure sensor, I might have to change out for a 4th gen. I gotta do a little more research on that. I'm pretty sure I have to. I remember doing this in my truck and I had some issues where the ECU wouldn't read, but that's also a stock ECU setup, you know, just run on HP tuners. But we got our back cover on. We just put a couple bolts in to, you know, hold the motor with the pry bar so it didn't turn over while we were doing stuff. I think we had lifters in last time. You can see we got the lifters in and the lifter trays nicely set in there. They're all oiled up and looking good. We have our knock sensors in. I do believe I'm gonna have to modify the harness because I have a 4th gen Terminator X harness for this. And being as it's, you know, 58 time reluctor wheel bottom end. And I think I'm gonna have to modify because the 4th gen motors had knock sensors down on the side of the block on either side, where these are on the top, and the plug doesn't match up for one. But also, if I'm not sure if I can just splice into the, you know, put a new plug on the harness and run these, and then just change it in the software, because I'm sure you have to change the sensitivity, being as they're at the top of the block versus the side. I'm assuming I can do that. I'll have to talk with Holly about that, and I'll let you guys know what I figure out and what I end up doing, and maybe I'll make a video on it just to, you know, get her done. But that's how it's looking right now. It's looking pretty sweet. Dustin's working on heads. A 4-liter Whipple on this thing, and I've mentioned this before, but I have been dealing with Whipple to get this thing, and these things are not easy or quick to get. They're not cheap. They're very nice. I mean, the quality of these things is really good. But I had ordered this thing from Whipple on Black Friday, and it's now March 25th, 26th, something like that. So it took, it took like 6 weeks, 7 weeks to get here. And with that, they told me it was gonna be 5. I mean, I understood because they build to order these things. And I gotta tell you, I ordered this from a dealer. And I'm not usually one to bash people's names, but if you guys run into TSP Performance, just walk away. All it is some guy that he just resales. He just sends your order to Whipple through him, and sends it to your door, which I normally don't have a problem with, but he knows absolutely nothing about any of the parts he's selling. So I wouldn't use that guy. I did it, and he was a pain in my back. I mean, the guy just sucks. And so now I'm trying to deal with Whipple. They're very helpful, but to a point. So when they sent me this is what they call the hot rod kit. It's basically a universal kit, because most of their stuff that they sell is for a specific application, whether it be a Gen 5 Camaro or a, Shelby situation or whatever it is. So they'll send a whole kit for whatever car you're running, whatever application you're running. This is their hot rod kit, so it's universal, and it's kind of put it on whatever. And when they sent it with a few bags of bolts, and they're labeled, but they're not labeled what they're for. They're just labeled LS1 shipping bolt bag, and then they tell you what bolts are in it. So you have I figured out where some of them went, just because that's, you just kind of, this is where they fit. But there's like a crap load of bolts that I still have no idea where anything goes. And I called them, I dealt with them, I've emailed them. They have been very unhelpful. I can't imagine it's that hard for them to find out what, it's just the bolts they put in the bag and sent with the kit. They ought to know what they're for, but they don't. And I haven't heard back from them. It's been a few days. So I'll figure it out. A lot of these I probably just won't use, but this thing comes with, right off the bat, I could not get any information as to what kind of boost I was running, just from what they send. But this one comes with the standard 5-inch supercharger pulley. You guys can see that it says 5 inches. Really nice quality stuff. This is Whipple supercharger on the top. This is a 5-inch snout pulley, and it comes with an 8-inch crank pulley that I have over there by the motor. It also comes with these gorgeous fuel rails. Like, these are really nice fuel rails. It doesn't come with injectors, I put those in, but it does come with the fuel rails, the bolts to mount it to the intake. It comes with the fittings for the cooler. They're right up front. I had a really hard time when I was doing research trying to figure out where the water to air inlets would be. I was looking at pictures and videos, and it's just, nobody gives a close look at it, so it's really hard to tell what's what. So I figured I'd give you guys a close look at this now. It came with the bracket with all these accessory pulleys on it, so you know, just a tensioner and some regular, you know, regular pulleys. It's nothing special. It does come with a belt, and this particular one is a 10 rib setup, but you can get them at 8 and 6. I'm personally going to run just the supercharger off its own setup, and then I'll have my dampener below, which might run a alternator, and that's it. So there'll be 2 belts rather than 1, but that's just the way I wanted it. This is kind of what it comes as, and everything's assembled like this other than the bracket, the fuel rails, and injectors. I did those, but this bracket comes in another box. It's got these, you know, extenders, and it did come with, like I say, the lower pulley, the upper pulley, and an extender for your dampener. You do have to run ATI dampener for this. Nothing else will work with this. They accept Nick Williams throttle bodies. However, I'm kind of cheap, and I found out that the cheap little $50 102mm eBay throttle bodies that you can buy have the same bolt pattern and everything. So these will, I got this little guy for 50 bucks on the old eBays. It's a G Plus, and we're gonna give that a go. It's a 102 model. It comes with sensors. I've heard the sensors are trash and that you should put on some genuine sensors. And then I've also heard that as long as you take these 2 bolts out and Loctite those, you should be in good shape with these units. These things tend to come out, I guess, and you know, if it backs out and sends down your intake, that's never fun. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna Loctite those. I'll try these sensors. If they don't work out, or if I'm having issues starting, I will get rid of them immediately. I might just replace them with regular sensors straight out the bat, just to save myself any headache. But we're gonna try to run that thing to save us, you know, $400, $500 for Nick Williams, or, you know, maybe even a Motion Raceworks one. If it doesn't work out, if it's just a pain in the ass, I'll probably go to Motion Raceworks, because I just like those guys. Their customer service is awesome. But we'll be putting that on there, and I think it's gonna, these are rear feed, so this thing's kind of a hefty girl. Let me pull it out for you. I will try to show you the back of it here. When it comes, it has this cover over the throttle body hole. Just a little, you know, paper cardboard cover. But this is where your throttle, either you can mount your throttle body right to this. Those 102 throttle bodies will bolts match up, or you can get a neck. Now Whipple doesn't actually make like a neck that comes around or anything, which sucks. It blows my mind, but it is what it is. There is one that you can buy on the market that I know of. It's a billet unit, and it basically just comes up, over, and forward for your throttle body to mount to there. Those are $600. They're really nice quality looking units. The only problem I have with them is it seems that, you know, they don't swoop. They don't have a nice round tunnel coming out. It is flat on the inside. It comes in, it's flat, it's flat, it's flat. So I can't imagine the airflow is that great. The bypass valve on these is on the back, and this one actually was a little bent when I got it in the mail, but I bent it back. It's not a big deal. But all in all, very nice unit, really nice quality looking deal. I'll figure out what's going on with the bolts. I mean, I don't see, honestly, they're probably just, you know, stuff I don't need. So we'll figure that out. This thing is, it's pretty big. I mean, if you're looking for measurements, this thing is a foot tall, almost exactly from the very bottom to the very top. And it is good and heavy. I couldn't tell you exactly what it weighs, but 30, maybe 30, 40 pounds. It's pretty heavy. This thing, we're running the Snake Eater 1000 injectors, but they didn't come with this. It does come with oil, and this is Whipple's signature oil. They recommend you use this and only this. So they send it. You just put the whole bottle in, from what I've heard, or from what I've seen. It says on here to look at the instructions, but of course there are no instructions. But on the bottle it does tell you to use the whole thing. They also send O-rings, which are, they have O-ring bosses down in the intake ports to seal that up, which is cool. So we got those. We got our belt. We got our throttle body gasket that comes with it. Here's all the bolts that I have no idea what to do with. We got a couple bags of those. They come with brackets and bolts to mount your fuel rails. It comes with the fuel rails. It also comes with these intake gaskets. Now you put these underneath, you know, your O-ring, sandwich them between the head and the unit itself. I don't know why you'd use gaskets and O-rings. I'm not an engineer, you know what I mean? It doesn't, I've never seen anything like that before, but I haven't seen everything either, so there's that. But that's pretty much what it comes. It's a quick, basic overview of this Whipple 4-liter unit. If you guys are looking at getting one of these, yeah, I went through a dealer. If I were you, I'd just order it straight from Whipple if you can. I should have done that. I didn't do that. I recommend you do. Other than that, I know once we get these heads on, we might, I'm not sure if we're going to be using these stock valve covers or not. I'd like to paint them just like the valley cover and the timing cover, and we'd have to redo our catch can line. So we'll drill this out, put an AN fitting in here so that we can run to our sweet little Motion Razor catch can. And I actually have one of these on my S10 too, so I could probably show you guys what it looks like. I don't know if I can get this box open. They come really nice packaging, and I'm sure you've seen this. This is the Cletus edition. I splurged. They're actually the same price on Black Friday. But they're very nice setup. I really like the quality. The brackets are really cool. They do come with fittings and everything you need. Anything Motion Raceworks, like I bought a few things from them. I buy out my fuel pumps from them because they can give you relays and everything that you need for them. The quality stuff and the customer service is insane. Like those guys, they'll let you text them. I don't know if you guys have paid attention, but they'll literally let you text them and ask them questions, which is pretty sweet. But I got that fuel pump from them, the relays, all that stuff too. We all run the 750 Magna Fuel. For now, it should be fine. I know they're capable of around 1100 horse with E85. We might have to double that up one day, or I have a Holley one laying around that I might just throw in with it. I am running these cheap little Poi regulators. We'll see how it works on this one. I have this identical regulator on my truck, and it works great. So we'll see how, if they're all great or if I just got lucky. And then on this one, they come with a gauge, but I take off the gauge on for this one, and I put this little elbow on here that I got at Max, and I'm running a fuel pressure sensor for the ECU on that. So I'm also upgrading the return on that. They're 8 AN feeds, and it's a 6 8N return, but I'm going to throw an 8N return on that just because we should, in case we need to upgrade. We really should be able to get more fuel out of that. I'm going to use these old shorty headers that I used to have on the S10, temporarily at least. I might just get some of those stainless forward-facing 1 7/8" headers. I think that's the way to go. I'm thinking that's what we're going to do. We got our motor mounts we got to put in yet. We've got, well, here's our valve springs. I got to put them on the table. We'll be using these Earl's head bolts. So this is an interesting alternative to head studs. If you guys don't want to spend a bunch of money, you can always get the Chinese head studs, but I hear they're kind of shit too. These, I get these from, you can get them on eBay. You can get them, I get them from, God, what's the name of it? There's a FabBot Performance, and they're in Minnesota, actually. Really nice guys. I met them out at Power Cruise, and they were running a little Colorado. They were pushing like 30 pounds of boost to, and they were using these head bolts, and they said they'd never lifted a head before. They also sell them. They work really good. They are on the S10 now. They haven't seen any real boost yet. I mean, we've seen 8 pounds, but do. I mean, we've seen 14 pounds of stock head bolts and they never lifted. So we'll see how those work when we get upwards of 20. And in this thing, they will be in this thing. So if we get upwards of 20, 25, plus a little nitrous maybe in the future, we'll see what those head bolts are really made of. I did find this cheap stainless flexible radiator hose. Comes with like couplers for the ends. We're just going to use that. I originally got it for the S10 because I had some really goofy angles that I needed to get, but it didn't work anyway, so I'm just going to use it for this. I think it'll be fine. We do have our filter relocation kit because of that oil pan. We need to run that stuff. That's all dash 10 stuff. I think some of it's dash 12 too. We got some extra dash 8 line for fuel stuff. We've got a 30-row trans cooler setup. That's all 10 AN stuff. And these things are sweet. This G Plus stuff, I run this thing on the S10. Travis runs it on his Camaro. I really like mine. It works really good. It comes with an electric fan. And they're like 138 bucks. eBay. eBay. It's my man. Other than that, yeah, I mean, we do have dual valve spring. And we got our Terminator X set up. These are really cool. And I'll go over this too probably when we hook it up. Now, it's going to be a little different because of our setup, you know, being the awkward bottom end that we have in this thing. We got to really get creative. I'm gonna have to change out a few plugs and, you know, get crazy. Go figure, you buy a nice system that's supposed to run itself and you go around jacking things up. But that's where we're at, guys. This thing is rocking and rolling, and soon she'll be up and running, I'm sure, in no time. Stay tuned.